The uncomfortable truth we don't talk about as Christians is that sometimes God orchestrates your suffering. In 1 Samuel chapter 1, the Bible doesn't say that Hannah simply couldn't have children. It says the Lord closed her womb. And it's here when we have to realize that God is sovereign. It means that nothing unfolds without his knowledge, without his authority. So when Hannah suffered from childlessness, it was under the authority of God. Her tears and the depression that she went to wasn't outside the knowledge of God. And we learn that in Samuel 1, God allows suffering because his will stretches beyond our moment of pain. You see, Hannah had been waiting years for a son, but God had been waiting decades for a prophet. In the time of Judges, God's people had fallen into such moral decay that people, especially women, were suffering. Abuse, corruption, violence, all of these weren't exceptions anymore. They became the norm. The people of God had lost their way, and their leaders, the judges, couldn't stop it. In some cases, they made it worse. So God was looking for someone who would belong to him completely, someone who would commit their will and their mission solely to the purposes of God. That is what is called a Nazirite in the Bible. And we can see that God was looking for this because he tried this with Samson. Samson was a Nazirite. We know this because he never cut his hair. But Samson chose his own pleasures over the will of God. And God had to enact his will despite Samson, not because of Samson. And so by the time we meet Hannah, it's not only that Hannah is waiting for a child, but heaven is also waiting for a child that will be fully dedicated to God, that will be a true Nazirite. And the thing about Hannah's prolonged suffering, the thing about her prolonged grief, is that it brought Hannah to a place where something shifts. She prays a different kind of prayer. She says, God, if you will give me this son, I will give him back to you. She suffered so long and suffered so hard, to the point of revelation that if God will give me something, I have to be willing to give it back to him. And this is where Hannah's story merges with God's will. She's no longer asking God to answer her needs. Instead, she is aligning herself with the will of God. And she says to God, I will not let a razor touch his head, i.e., I will commit him to you as a true Nazirite. And so what we learn is that when God orchestrated Hannah's suffering, it's because he was orchestrating something greater than her. He was preparing the way for a prophet of the likes of Moses. And Samuel, this prophet, would find and anoint King David. King David is a man from whose line comes Jesus Christ. The delay of God wasn't the absence of God. It was, in fact, God preparing the way for himself. It was the preparation of God.